double check this. Yeah, that's what I have from Friday.
Okay, yes, that's what we're up to then. One moment, please. Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's what we're up to. Yeah. One moment, and let's find it there. Thank you, Reb Michal. Okay. Okay. So let's see. So we're Nun Ches Amud Aleph. No, we're still with the guests, I think. Okay, the Ish Bimei Shaul, a little bit higher. The Ish Bimei Shaul. 58A, number 7. The Ish Bimei Shaul. Yeah, it's Yossel, I'll show you. The Ish Bimei Shaul Zakein Baba Nashim.
Oh, no. Okay, yeah.
Now, why are we quoting this? We're quoting this because we talked about the special bracha that you say when you see 600,000 together. So the man in the name of Shaul, Zakein Baba Noshim, he was old and came and become among men. So this was Yishai. Yishai was a famous figure. David was his youngest son and didn't get much attention paid to him. But Yishai himself was like the leader of the Bnei Yehuda, who were the biggest tribe. Amarava, like when they counted soldiers, they always counted soldiers and then the soldiers from Bnei Yehuda. They were like the Marines, like the Tzanchanim. So Amarava, Rava said, V'itema Ramzvid, others say Ramzvid. By the way, there's a reason why the men of Yehuda always get counted separate. I just realized because I was talking with Moshe about his journeys through Israel. My son Moshe just came back from 3 years of yeshiva in Israel, and in the off weeks, he traveled all over Israel to see all the Tanakh places and all the Mishnah places. So the Yehuda is southeast part of Israel. It's the southern. It goes into the Negev. So all the marauding Arab tribes, all the Amalekites, the children of Esau, the Edomites, the Moabites, all these people all the troublemakers live near Yehuda. So Yehuda was constantly fighting, which is why they were the best soldiers. Because all the people from the desert, the Midianites, the Moabites, the Amalekites, the Edomites, all these tribes who are wild desert tribes all lived around the borders of Yehuda. So Yehuda was constantly dealing with enemies. At any rate, Omar Ravitim Rabzvid Vitim Rabhoshia. Yishai Avi David. This is Yishai, the son of David, who went out with multitudes and entered with multitudes and taught Torah in the multitudes. What does this mean? What does it mean that he went out with multitudes? A minute, let's see. Here. Okay, so it says here that he went out and came back, that he led in war 600,000 in war. That's what it says. And he also taught Torah in multitudes. So uchlasa means Amar Ulanaktin and uchlasa b'Bavel. We learned there's no uchlasa on Bavel. There's never 600,000 Jews in one place. And Tana, we learned in the Braisa, ein uchlasa pachas meshishim ribui. that Uchlasa means 600,000. So this only took place in Eretz Yisrael in the time when everyone was there together. Tonu Rabbana, Haroah Chachmei Yisrael, someone who sees the wise ones of Israel, recites Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shecholak b'chachmaso l're'av. We shared of his wisdom with those who revere him.
His friends.
So it's only where you see someone who was the greatest of sages in a generation. Chachmei u'masalav, if you see the wise ones of the nations of the world, you say, blessed is he who gave of his wisdom to flesh and blood. So there's a very interesting question that is raised. So what are the chachamim of the nations? What are they expert in? Worldly knowledge, right? So there's a very interesting question so the question is, what happens if you come across a Jew whose wisdom is in the secular sciences? What bracha would you say? Because his wisdom is referring to Torah.
Chok natan v'lo yavor.
But it's besides the point. The question is, which bracha do you say? Do you say the bracha for giving wisdom to flesh and blood because it's not Torah wisdom? So if you saw it Albert Einstein when he was alive, what bracha would you say? So I don't know the answer.
I would say you are not Einstein. There is more than Einstein. There is Zweistein and Zweistein.
Okay. Omer Rabbi Yochanan. The olam yishtadel adam loretz likras malchei Yisrael. A person should always make an effort to run and see the kings of Israel. In other words, if there's a Jewish king around, which in Rabbi Yochanan's time already didn't exist, you should run to see kings of Israel. And not just should you run to see a king of Israel, but you should run to see kings of the world. Because if you will merit to see the Mashiach, you'll see the difference between the corrupt kings between the kings of the Jewish people to the corrupt kings of the world of the world. So that you should know the difference.
Wait a minute. It says of the Kochavim, they are idol worshippers.
No, the correct term is Umot Olam. Ovdei Kochavim, the censor put in. No, the censors censored the Talmud, and in the times of when the Jews lived in Europe, and it should be not Malchei Ovdei Kochavim, it should be Malchei Umot Olam. Steinsaltz says Umot Olam. That's the correct reading.
So who made the change?
The censors, when you wanted to print a Gemara in Italy,
they decided to
the church,
the
Russian church and the Catholic church.
They didn't want to be called Ovdei Kochavim.
No, the other way around. If you say Umot Olam, it means the Christians. Also, it includes the Christians. If you say idol worshippers, the Christians could say, oh, it doesn't mean us because we don't worship idols. So there are a lot of things that are censored. There's a whole section of Rambam that's censored out about Yoshkin.
Really?
We're talking, yeah.
What do you mean censored out? So
At the end of Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam has a long riff on Jesus,
I know,
which they took out. The censors.
The
Vilna Rambam does not have it. The Rambam Lam from Moshe Rav Kook, who the yard site of its founder we marked today, Maimon.
Yeah.
So it has it. They put it back in.
In
the Moshe Rav Kook Rambam Lam, and in the Steinsaltz Rambam, they put it back.
Rambam, but we have Rambam here, no?
No, Rambam is not a commentary on the Gemara. Anyways, but the point is that the censors changed things. So they left out things they didn't like. So they changed. The truth is in Gemara, there's idol worshippers and there's Umas Olam, nations of the world. It's two separate things. In our Vilna Shas, everything is Ovei Kochavim because the censors made us change it in order to have the privilege of being allowed to print a Gemara. But you should run to see what the kings of the nations are like, so you'll be able to distinguish between the kings of Israel when Mashiach comes and the kings of the nation of the world. Rav Sheshes was blind. Rav Sheshes was an amazing scholar, and he learned everything by heart because he was blind from birth. So the whole world went to greet the king. For come Azal Badai Rav Sheshes. Rav Sheshes stood up and went along. Ashkechu Mina, a heretic, found him and made fun of him. Amalei Chatzvei Lenahara. The jugs go to the river to be filled with water. Kagne Laya, broken jugs. Why do they go to the river? They can't fill with water. Why does a blind person go see the king? This is a classic example of ableism. Not allowed today. Ableism is where you give precedence to people who are not disabled over the disabled. Ableism means like you build a shul without a ramp for wheelchairs and so on. That's ableism. That's giving precedence to people who are abled. Anyways, but so he made fun of him. Come with me, he said to the heretic, and I'll show you I know more than you, even though you see and I am blind. It's a great story. Cholav Gunda Kamaisa, the first troop of soldiers passed, the king's escort. Kiko Ashra, when it got louder, the heretic said, "Oh, the king is coming." Only Rav Sheshes lo kasi. The king is not coming. Cholav Gunda Tanana, the second troop came. Like Kiko Ashra, when it got even louder. The heretic said, Hashtakas, the king must be coming now. Amalei Rav Sheshes says, no, lo kasi malka, the king is not coming. Cholav Talisai, the third troop passed, Kikashaska, and after all the banging of drums, it was silent. Amar Rav Sheshes, Vade Hashtasi Malka. Rav Sheshes says, now the king is coming. When a hush falls over the crowd, this is when the king is coming. How do you know this? Royalty on earth is like the royalty of heaven. That it has a little bit of a flavor of God's royalty. The Chsivis, it's written, Hashem says, Telio, say Bahar, go stand before God on Mount Chorev, on Mount Sinai. Fini Hashem over, and Hashem will pass by and teach you. There was a great and mighty wind that smashed up mountains and ground up rocks from before Hashem. But lo beruach Hashem, Hashem was not in the wind. And after the ruach, there was a great earthquake. But lo berash Hashem, Hashem was not in the earthquake.
This is from where?
Melachim bet. V'acharash eish. And after the earthquake, there was a fire, but lo veish Hashem, Hashem was not in the fire. V'acha eish called the mamadaka. And after the fire was a quiet and still voice, and that was the voice of Hashem. And that's when Eliyahu covered his face with his mantle, with his talis.
Is that in the, what do you call it, in the Minhara?
Where he went to hide in the desert. Yeah, Perik Yutet. Awesome, when the king came, Pasuk Rav Sheshes K'mavarach Le, Rav Sheshes blessed him. Amalei Mina Lamandale Chazas Le K'mavarach. You're saying a bracha. You're saying a bracha to that which you don't see. He made fun of him. So of course he knew the king was there. You know who else? And the bracha, blessed is he who gave of his glory to flesh and blood. He was given of his glory to flesh and blood. Who said that bracha with a yarmulke on his head? What famous Jew?
Rabbi, why?
Could be, man. Who did he see? Queen?
He saw the president, wasn't it?
That's a big question. It's a big question if you're allowed to say the bracha. It's a question of a bracha in vain to say the bracha for an elected president.
Why?
Because an elected president is not a king. A king is someone who has, who has their position from birth. It's even a question if you say the bracha on a constitutional monarch, because they don't have true kingly power. But since the queen can dissolve parliament, the Bezdin of London ruled that you say the bracha if you see the queen and now the king. If you see King Charlie, you say the bracha. But at any rate, Shmuel Yosef Agnon, the Nobel Prize winner, he followed the psak din that on any king who's a hereditary king, you say the bracha. So when he was awarded the Nobel Prize, the ceremony began sorry Shabbos, but right after Shabbos. So he walked from his hotel to the palace. So he shouldn't be Mechavol Shabbos. Agnon, the great Israeli novelist, was a religious Jew. And though he didn't always wear a kippah except when he prayed, which is common among Ashkenazi Jews, among German Jews, though he was not Polish. But when he came when the king presented him with the medal for the Nobel Prize, the king of Sweden, I believe, he put on a kippah. He took a kippah out of his pocket, he put it on his head, and he said the bracha, "Blessed are you, King of the universe, who gave of his glory to flesh and blood." And then he translated into Swedish for the king.
What I don't understand is why all these distinctions. I mean, we're talking about covet to somebody,
A bracha, so no.
ruler, a president.
Covered,
not?
no. Honor is one thing, but the question is, did God give glory to this person? So some people say that true glory is only to a king who's a hereditary king, who's always a king for life. But a president who's raised to power and then goes out of power is not the same as a king. So it's a machlokes. If you can, very questionable. Say
that presidents can do more damage in 4 years than a king gets.
That is all true.
48.
But the question is that considered to have Hashem's glory? Because Hashem's glory means to say God's absolute power. You have to be hereditary and powerful. So anyways, some people I'm sure say, but it's a question if you can say it, the bracha with Hashem's name. Okay. There's a big debate about this. Some people do, some people don't.
Not on enough.
What happened to that heretic? That his friends gouged out his eyes. They were so angry at him, even though they were his friends. They were also heretics. The others say Rav Sheshes Nasan Einabel V'Nasa Shatzomos. The Rav Sheshes fixed his unseeing eyes upon him, and he became a pile of bones. He cursed him. Okay. Rav Shela Nagda who governed the Balgoya. Rav Shela flogged the person who had relationships with a non-Jewish woman.
Mitzrayit.
It's once again, that's the censor. It wasn't an Egyptian, it was a Goya, a non-Jew. The censors changed it. That's the Vilna Shas. The Russian censors changed it. Why? Because even though there's no official penalty even though there's no official penalty in the Torah, one, we see Pinchas killed someone for being with a non-Jew, Zimri, and it's considered such a serious sin. There's no penalty for it. The purpose of a death penalty is to bring a person atonement. For a Jew to sleep with a non-Jew is such a serious sin. There's no atonement, so there's no point in giving them the death penalty. Nevertheless, Rav Sheshes had the person flogged as a lesson that people should not sleep with non-Jews. Also by Kurtzi by Malka. So the man who was flogged went and informed on the king, and this was to the Roman authorities, because Rabbi means a rabbi of Israel. Amar Ika Chadgavra b'Yudoi, there is a man among the Jews, the Kodayan Dina, who renders judgment below Hermana de Malka without the king's approval. Hermana means the stamp of approval. Shadar Alei Pristika, he sent a messenger to bring him to Reb Shela to trial. He asked him, why did you whip him? So he didn't want to tell him that he slept with a non-Jew, might offend the king. Amalei, the Baal Chamarta, he had relations with a donkey. So that the Goyim didn't like either. So they approved it. Amrulay, they believed in animal rights. Amrulay Islach Sadeh, do you have a witnesses? Amruluin, Ase Leo Admile Keinish. Elio Hanavi appeared as a man. Elio Hanavi went up to heaven alive and comes down in difficult situations, and testified that he slept with a donkey. He's liable to be killed because under Roman and Persian law, someone who slept with an animal is killed. From the day we're exiled from our lands, this must be the Persian king. We have no permission to kill. And you do as you wish. So you do as you wish. So he told him, you can do what you want. Now, later the Gemara will explain why he said a donkey. Adam and Beibedin, as they considered the sentence, Rabbi Shela praised Hashem for saving him from danger and says, to you Hashem is a Gedula Gvur Tferes Nezach Kobish my words. He called Bashamayim and L'cha Hashem L'mlocha V'Misnasei L'chol L'rosh. To you Hashem is the kingdom.
Yeah, but
Omerle, my comment to what did you say? Omerle, this is what I said. Brich Lachmana praised his God, Tiyov Malchus Bara, who made a king on earth like the king in heaven. V'yavle Shulta Baracha Medina, and you gave you rule and love of justice. Amra Chavivi Alei Yikar de Malchusa Kulei. Do you respect the king so much that you say that the king on earth is a reflection of the Almighty in heaven? Yavle Kufa Omrle Dandena. They gave him a staff and they said, judge. In other words, they gave him official approval to judge in the Persian Empire. Kyavanofik, the Gavra is leaving, the man said, Avid Rahmana Nisa L'Shikari Hacha, because God would perform miracles for liars. He sent you Eliyahu and Navi, the criminal, the one who got flogged, says, you lied. I didn't sleep with a donkey. I slept with a guy. Amalei Russia, wicked one. Vav Chamri Ikru are not Gentiles called donkeys. The chsiv is it's written in Yecheskel, Asher Chaba Besar Chamairim Besaram. He said their flesh is the flesh of donkeys. That Yecheskel says about the goyim, that they're, in other words, that for a Jew to sleep with a goy is like for a Jew to sleep with an animal, just as bad. Chazi de Kozela Meimerlo, he saw that he was going to tell the Persian.
Advertise this.
He said he was going to tell the Persian authorities that he called them donkeys. Just the opposite. Jews living with non-Jews is a big problem today. Omri, high Reidefu, he's a pursuer. Fatera Omra, and the Torah says, in Barla Hargicha Hashkem Larga, he who comes to kill him first. Makhe Bekufa Bekotle. He struck him with the staff the king gave him and killed him. Because if he was going to inform on the Jews, anyone who's an informer, it's a mitzvah to kill them before they inform on you. And let me tell you a story that I heard from my father. My father met an old Yerushalmi Jew in New York in the years that he was in yeshiva. And he had been in Israel during the time of the during the ones. Yes. And there was a frum Jew from Yerushalayim who knew where certain members of the Irgun were, and he wanted to inform on them because he didn't like the Tziyonim. So the Aida Charedis, the super frum anti-Zionist Beitin, said that he should quietly be killed because if he informs the British will hang them. And someone who's going to inform, no matter how frum he looks, is a pursuer, and you have to kill him before he gets Jews killed.
So let's come to the present time. So we have a lot of mixed marriages, and the woman never converted. So
the answer is we don't whip people today because they're all like I said today in shul. They're all like children who are captured by the goyim. They don't know any better. 99.9% of the people who intermarry, they don't know any better. Sometimes, grandparents usually, not even parents, come to me, oh, my kid wants to marry a guy. I say, look, what do you want? You sent them to public school. You sent them to regular university. You didn't keep kosher. You didn't keep Shabbos. You didn't give them, let me finish. You didn't give them a Jewish education. What do you expect from them? You didn't teach them in any way that Judaism was important. So what do you want from the children?
But to tell it today after the fact is cruel almost. What are you telling him? It's already after the fact.
The answer is when I meet someone, and I know many such
So how
people,
do you
the answer
advise
is,
them?
so I'll tell you. When you
Why
meet,
not conversion? What's
Look-
wrong with conversion?
before you get to conversion, let me explain something to you.
Yeah,
If I meet a Jew
yeah,
who doesn't keep any Torah and mitzvahs,
yeah.
I don't tell him keep everything. I tell him or her, put on tefillin once,
Yeah,
light Shabbos candles,
yeah,
come and learn some Torah,
yeah,
eat matzah on Pesach, right?
yeah.
Little by little, you add one mitzvah at a time. The point is that someone who's married to a non-Jew, unfortunately,
Yeah,
whether it's a man or a woman, there's lots of mitzvahs they can do. And over time, sometimes it happens that the non-Jewish partner sees their spouse getting interested in Judaism, and they find Judaism attractive and they convert over time. Next time we learn, because we don't have any more time, I'll tell you a story about how a non-Jewish woman caused a completely non-observant Jew to become observant,
yeah.
and in the process, she herself converted. I'll tell you a story of someone I know personally another day.
But what I'm saying, Judaism allows conversions.
Sure, it does.
And
more than
once
that, and
converted, you're
normally-
100% Jew.
That's true. And normally we push away a convert, someone who we try to dissuade them, right? But someone who's married to a Jew, we do not try to dissuade them. However, Joe, they have to be a kosher conversion, they have to undertake to keep Torah mitzvot entirely. A Jew who doesn't keep Torah mitzvot entirely is still a Jew. But to become a Jew, you have to accept the whole thing. That's the halacha. And there is no one who argues. There is no other opinion in classic halacha. We'll talk more about this tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.